hand reading. Today we're doing the villains range, and we're doing something just a little different than we've been doing so far. So this was a comment on one of my day 20 videos. Marius Kukis said, also would like to see you ranging some stronger regular players where they would have more bluffs in their ranges and you would have more bluffs against them, of course, just to mix things up. So that's what he had said, and I thought to myself, well, that's actually a pretty good idea. So what we're going to do is find a good villain to look through some of his hands that went to showdown. Maybe I'm in the hand, or maybe not. I'm not really sure. It's kind of difficult without going through the hands and knowing what everybody has. It's hard to find just a hand where I end up going to showdown with a particular villain, with a particular good villain. I mean, I could just start opening up all of these hands here, like for example this one, and we could just look. Okay, it looks like my opponent is this guy, only 5 hands. He's a 60-0. He's not exactly a good villain to range. So let's close it. Let's open up this hand. Whoops, looked at his hand real quick. Didn't mean to do that. And then look, I'm up against 2 limps. I mean, by just going through hands and trying to find a good villain can be difficult to do without seeing the hands ahead of time. So let's do this instead. We'll go to my reports. I have my Finding Good Opponents report. Now what this does is it looks through my entire database of the opponents that I have hands with. I think it's looking at over 400 hands with a win rate of, I don't remember what it was. It was looking at a high win rate. So we could see right here, we have 4 players where really good win rates, and I have really good win rates right here and a ton of hands on them. And there's WackyJuan, there's myself. So let's look at some hands from Big the Big. What we're going to do is look at some of his hands that went to showdown and see if we can't, range him properly against whoever he ends up being in the hand with. So we go back to statistics here, look up Big the Big. And then so Big the Big, he's seen a lot of different showdown hands right here. Let's take a look at some EP hands. Oh, he's got some losing stuff here. And then we have it sorted by action already. So calls, raise, bet, 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 and an unopened pot. Raise, bet. Well, we can see what he's betting every street with. He's doing a ton of betting, ton of checking, calls. Raise, bet, call, and then bet, bet. Oh, interesting. Let's take a look at this hand. This might be a good one. Hey, I am in it, of course. Until I fold. Okay, so it looks like what we've got in this hand is reading Big the Big. What is it here? He's opening in the MP. It's under the gun, but there's one player missing. And the big blind calls. What's this hand call number? 88242601. Great. I don't know the date. We'll take a look at that later. And it's the big blind that calls. Okay. Big blind. Fish calls. We could see he's a 35-4. We know Big the Big. Look at that. He's a loose, aggressive player. 3K hands. Good win rate already. So he will be a pretty good one to read here. All right. So... Oh, and of course, minimize that. We've got the split suit template right here where you can get it splitsuit.com/templates. And we have our favorite program, Flopzilla. Bring up that hand once again. Okay. So in this hand, Big the Big raise. Let's see what he raises under the gun and MP. So in the MP, 22% and 19%. So we can give him, let's give him roughly a 20% opening range here. Maybe slightly wider because he is in the MP. So let's look at 25 and maybe pare some stuff down here just a tiny bit. Let's give him all the aces to open with. Maybe not all the ace offsuits. Let's take away, maybe keep in Jack 10 like that. That's a 22% range. That's looking pretty good. I think King 9 he can open. King 8 might be folding here. 7-5, possibly, but 8-6 feels, it's a middle of the range suited gapper. So that's more possible. 6-5, every pocket pair, of course, is opening. So we're going to give Big the Big this range, 22%, 290 combos. Lovely. And then so so what did Volleyball call with here? He's a 35-4 player. He's calling a super wide range. Let's give him an offsuit ace. Ace 7 offsuit. Well, it does block a ton of his combos. Let's not give him an ace. Let's give him an offsuit king instead. King 10 offsuit. We'll do that. Okay, so King 10 offsuit for volleyball. Big the Big has a 22% range here. So before the flop comes, we're looking at 57% equity versus that double gapper offsuit, double gapper right here. And of course, the reason why the range has so many good hands, or so much equity, is because of all the pocket pairs in the range, all those aces that currently beat the King 10, plenty of better kings than the King 10 as well, and then lots of suited stuff also. So yeah, makes sense that the equity is pretty darn good here. So deuce 10-10 spade heart club. On this flop, we're looking at now the, oh, how funny, I gave it a 10. Oh well, that's fine, it doesn't matter. I mean, who knows? Maybe he does have a 10. That would be crazy if I just happened to guess that. But we're looking at right now on the paired board, because our opponent has trips. I'm going to say we for Big the Big, just because I'm just so used to saying, you know, we and a villain. So this is we are Big the Big in this hand, and the villain is right over here. So Big the Big has very little equity if our opponent flop trips, but let's see what happens here. Check. And then 80 cent, just a half pot bet, and then a min raise and a call. So what is Big the Big c-betting and then calling the min raise with? There aren't any quads in the range because the 10 is right here. Darn. You know, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, I do want to put quads in the range because it is very possible that on the flop, at least, he has position. He could just be calling the min raise to slow play and lull his opponent into thinking he has a really good hand. Although this guy is a super passive fish, he probably wouldn't want to slow play the quads. He'd probably want to raise again, just a min raise to 240, to keep building that pot to make it easier to get it all in on the river. So, whoops. Let's see here. Quads are calling. Full house, possibly calling one street at least. What are the... Oh, pocket deuces, yeah, the underfull. Let's give it a call on the one street. Three of a kind, all those different 10s. I think those are possibly calling. I think showing this kind of like bet calling on the turn, I don't think so. With such strong hands, I think we're going to see a lot of raising. But on the flop, could slow play just to lull the opponent into a false sense of security. Although I don't think that's the right play. I think betting and then raising again. Bet 3-bet is a better play here. Betting and then calling with the pocket pairs below? Totally. Mid pair. Oh, just a weak deuce? I don't think so. I mean, you're up against a super loose passive player, and their betting here means they have something. You want to have at least something that has some showdown equity, and just a pair of deuces, not really. Ace highs, those are folding. No made hands, I'm saying those are folding. Overcards, they can call one street, thinking that the opponent doesn't have a 10. They're just trying to rep it with a small bluff. Yep. So I think that's the possible calling range right there. Some pocket pairs just not wanting to give up just yet because Big the Big does have position. And then some overcards because there's always a possibility that they can hit it on the flop. I'm sorry, on the turn, and then just kind of I guess, you know, slow play or just control the pot size by not raising and only calling amounts that they're comfortable calling with. So I'm going to give them this range right here, which is 162 combos, 71%. 162? 162 combos. Okay, perfect. So if that is our range right there, we're looking at some good stuff. We still only have 9% equity because we put our opponent on trips already. I kind of wish I didn't assign King 10 right away. Now the 3 comes. That doesn't change anything at all. But then we have a 360 bet. So my guess really now with this bet is that Big the Big really likes his hand right here. So betting 360 when check 2, I really doubt this is a bluff at this point. I think a half pot bet, maybe somewhere between half pot to 3/4 would be a better bluff here. Half pot to 2/3, somewhere in there as a sizing. So quads, full houses are, oh, whoops, I didn't change the board. 3 of hearts. Full houses are making the bet, going for value. 3 of a kind, betting for value. Over pairs, seeing that the opponent checked after making the min check raise, I think the over pairs can bet. Pocket pairs now, I think at this point, they're just willing to probably see a smaller pot. So why bet so big? I think he'd bet smaller with mid pocket pairs here. So let's keep those out of the range. I'm thinking this is basically just a value bet. I mean, I don't even see why you'd bet a flush here against such a loose passive station. He showed interest on that 10-10 board. If you had a couple of hearts, I think you're just checking behind to see a free river and hoping to hit the flush. So I'm not going to put the flush draws in the range. Open-ended either. Nope, nope, nope. So now it is possible that the big has bluffs in the range. But really, with the size of that bet, on that such an inconsequential card right there, that 3 of hearts doesn't do anything for anybody. Sure, it adds a flush draw, but it's nothing that, it doesn't change much at all. I think this is a value bet. I wouldn't be if it were me, I wouldn't be bluffing this passive station, especially one who showed interest on that paired flop right there. Hey, now you said it. Thanks for joining. Good to have you here on the Twitch chat. Thank you. Oh, wait a second. So that's what I'm going to say. It's just strictly value betting right here. Yep. So 39 combos, 25%. So we're keeping the toppest part of the big's range in right now. 39. I don't remember the percentage. Talking and remembering doesn't work well for me. 25%. And then volleyball. Now, volleyball needs just 30% equity to call right here. I think if they think the big is capable of bluffing, sure. Volleyball could be calling with under pairs. I think should be check raising again, or probably donk leading with trip 10s. So I kind of don't put them on this range anymore. Especially now that they called, I don't think they have trip 10s at all. I think they'd be going for max value, check raising again with trip 10s. So I'm thinking something more along the lines of pocket 8s or 7s, but I'm not going to change this because that changed all these counts and everything, all the combo counts. 4 of diamonds comes. So, so if that is the range, yeah, we have 28% now, a little bit more equity because we keep those trips and stuff, and we got rid of all our draws on the turn. Now the 4 of diamonds comes. Now, of course, that didn't complete any draws for us. We had 5-6 in the pre-flop range, but we removed it on the flop, I believe. So that didn't help us at all. Most likely didn't help our opponent unless they wanted to stay in with pocket 4s or even ace-5 of hearts. It's possible check raising on the ace-5 of hearts, backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw, catching something on the turn, and then deciding to check call. Not building the pot anymore, but check calling. Ace-5 of hearts is possible, but that is only one out of however many. And we could probably give our opponent like 120 combos at this point. Maybe not 100 because the betting is kind of big, and then the paired board might narrow it down a bit if we were arranging them. But yeah, they do have one hand in their range that really does improve with that 4. Yep. So on that 4 diamonds, we have 27% equity. Let's see what happens just to check. An $11 bet, guaranteed this is value. There ain't no way. Even over pairs, I think, are probably checking at this point, thinking that because volleyball could have called pre-flop with a 10-7 and just has trips and doesn't like the kicker. So it's possible. I think the big is strictly value betting here. 3 of a kind or better, only 18 combos out of what we originally gave them was 290 combos. So less than 10% of their range, probably closer to like 7% of that pre-flop range is in. 46%. Now that is such a big bet right here. I think he's only betting that much because he knows he's going to call, and he's just kind of going for as much value as he thinks he can get. 10 jack offsuit. Whoa, I would have never okay. So 10 jack, 10 jack offsuit, good. It's in the range. We can see it right there. So we narrow the big properly. With the way he played it, makes sense. He flopped that trip 10s. It's not the best of kickers, but then it's not the best of kickers. He could be out kicked, so he just called on the flop. Now that the opponent checked the turn, he figures, hey, this is a great opportunity to get some value. Made a 3/4 pot bet on the turn. And then on the river, that 4 doesn't do anything. Most likely my 10 is good. So I'm going to bet again. And that's what happened right there. It's a pretty interesting hand. I like to see the way the big played this hand. And I think he played it very well. He got plenty of value. But I am really surprised that he called with that bottom pair deuces. I can see, man, I mean, I guess this guy is just super passive right here. So if he is value betting, from his perspective, what is Volleyball going to call with? Well, I think Volleyball could call with an underpair, 8s, 9s, 7s, 6s, that kind of thing, that just doesn't believe the big has anything. I think Volleyball could possibly call on an overpair, jacks or queens, that chose not to 3-bet pre-flop. Because he's so passive, he might only be 3-betting with aces and kings out of the blinds. Jacks and queens are possibly in the range right here. So maybe he was betting $11. Let's see what that was again exactly. I think 11 into 12. He bet $11 into 12, thinking that Volleyball has a weaker 10 that he decided to check and then call with on the turn, but he probably also has jacks or queens. Maybe even ace-king might find a call here with the nut no pair hand. And then under pairs, 9s, 8s, 7s, 6s might find a call. So that might have been what the big was counting on. For my money, I would have bet that he is folding that bottom pair, that flop bottom pair that he decided to bluff. That was really interesting. So one thing that we know about, it's not this hand. So capable of min, check, raise, bluff. Where's my slash? Min, check, raise, bluff on chicken board. And now a chicken board is what I learned that term from Alex Fitzgerald. Chicken boards are just paired flops. Because in general, like on a 10-10 deuce board, that's really hard to hit. You need to have a pocket deuces, pocket 10s, or a random 10. And then so that's hard to hit. That kind of board is much harder to hit than, let's remove those real quick. Whoops, not a random turn, random flop. Oh, there's another chicken board right there. Like, so that kind of flop is a little bit easier to hit than a paired board. Come on, random. There we go. Paired board, chicken board again. That flop is easier to hit. Yeah, so all these different flops are easier to hit than paired boards. So that's an interesting thing to note about this, a player capable of min, check, raise, bluffing on the chicken board. Alrighty. Well, everybody, we didn't range myself, ranged 2 other opponents today, or one in particular while we were looking at one. But I think this was pretty good practice, looking at how some of our stronger opponents, the winners at our stakes, play. So I'm probably going to do this for a few more hands at least, maybe one more on Big the Big. And then as we saw in this report, I've got a few other players who are very big winners right here, but I've got a few other players, New Wave and Vision Poker, that I can be looking at some of their showdown hands to learn how they play. Alrighty, y'all. Thank you very much, and peace out. I'll see you on day 44.